Every human child is told to fear the boogeyman. Every alien child is told to fear the humans. Ever since they were introduced to the Greater Galactic Council, they were feared and hated like no other. It all started when a Takesh probe stumbled upon an inhabited system, MX-150, named after the probe designation and being the 150th discovery. It was simply studied from orbit. Nothing of immense technological significance was noted, and the probe continued its scouring of the stars. This doesn't mean the probe saw nothing interesting, however. Of the things on the surface, intriguing, to put it simply, horrifying to all those who look closely, the beings on the third planet from the Sun were of particular concern to the categorizing eye of the Takesh Confederacy, and as such a small fleet of scientists was sent to investigate further. What they found was shocking, to say the least. Transcript of Audio Thought Log 1. When I first arrived in orbit around this planet, for which there are many names, I was shocked, Nolab muttered. The way life existed down there was beyond all logic and reason. Many species on the planet exceed the maximum size of intelligent life, yet these are the species that dominate almost every corner of their world. Nolab stopped for a moment to comprehend what he was about to say. Our understanding of xenobiology has been shattered, he thought to himself. They defy logic and well-established scientific principles, and yet they exist. Why? Why should any species have an internal skeleton that encompasses organs meant to control the intake of oxygen, and other organs to digest biological matter? How did an intelligent species evolve without the energy from photosynthesis? Clearly such life existed on this planet, yet somehow the descendants of landfish were able to take a leading role on the planet. More study is needed. We know so far that they are animal life without the ability to photosynthesize, no singular system of bodily function, no energy for which to develop significantly without the intake of biological material. Nola could barely comprehend what he was saying, and the next word slipped out of his mouth without even thinking. I could really use some help over here. End log. His request was granted. More help would arrive a year later. They arrived at the planet just as a major conflict was erupting on the landmass that the creatures, humans, refer to as North America. One colony of the dominant power of the world was revolting, using primitive explosive chemicals to propel kinetic materials as weapons. While crude and primitive, such a weapon would already be capable of killing even the mightiest Takesh individual. By galactic standards, the Takesh was some of the largest and strongest individuals around. They stood at a massive 5 units tall. Humans would refer to this as 4.5 feet or 137 centimeters. Humans blew past this height, standing at 5.5 feet tall on average. Some even grew to the giant 7-foot mark, and they weren't even the largest species on the planet. War being waged on one's own species was common, for the humans anyway, but casualties were in the hundreds. Hundreds in every single battle. This revolutionary war had tens of thousands of casualties. Unbeknownst to everyone, the worst was yet to come. Shocked by the horror of such a bloody war raged on their own people, the scientists opted to abandon their posts. Suffering psychological trauma so great, not even the most powerful treatments in the whole galaxy could ease their suffering. It wasn't that war didn't happen between member states of the Council. In fact, it was extremely common. But no wars had ever been waged between people of the same species, except for on human wars, that is. For 140 years, the Takesh stayed far away from Earth and its horrifying occupants. Sadly for everyone who went back, their timing couldn't be any worse. The ambitious Karakal had taken up an interest in the humans, and offered to take the research station off the Takesh duties. They gladly accepted this request. Only a month later, the human Great War began. For 4 entire years, the Karakal watched in horror as humans charged at one another with much more potent weaponry than only 140 years ago. Machine guns, bolt actions, artillery, tanks, planes, bombs. The horrors fielded by the humans know many names. Most worrying of all was the rate at which such innovation had occurred. It took them less time to go from lackluster steam power to total industrialization than the fastest such speed known to the Galactic Council by a factor of 10. Not only were they deadly, but they were industriously so. By the end of it all, over 20 million humans were dead. Every single Karakal who witnessed the spectacle firsthand killed themselves. 50% of those who were informed of the sins committed on the surface went into immediate shock. Once again they left the research station abandoned, unwilling to ever gaze upon even the surface of the world below. Now, though, the world has sparked the interest of the head counselor of the Galactic Council. She wanted to find out how the humans advanced so quickly. Unfathomably, she would never receive an answer to her question. Roughly 20 years after the Great War, another science team was sent to the planet. What they found shook the entire galaxy to its core. The humans were on the cusp of splitting the atom, something they thought impossible to achieve only 20 years ago. War once again reared its ugly head. This time 75 million people would die. Such news led suicide rates in the entire galaxy to go up by 15% for the duration of the war. It got so bad that misinformation informing people that none of it was real was distributed as gospel across the stars. From here, things only got worse. They split the atom, then they went to space. Then they decided that focusing on being able to kill each other more times over than the other guy was more important than space. How they managed to not entirely obliterate their entire civilization still amazes and saddens the Galactic Council to this day. Finally, on one fateful day, in the human year 2407, they broke the code to FTL travel. This, by all known models, was completely impossible. Humans had very little of the resources to create an FTL drive, but they didn't need them. Instead of warping space-time like a normal race, they decided to do something else. Utilizing dark energy's ability to repel things, they used it to stabilize singularities between 2 points in space. They called this a wormhole drive. Once the spaceship entered the wormhole, it collapsed on the entrance side. Space then slingshotted them out the other side. Remarkably, it was just as fast as the FTL drives made by the most technologically competent races in the galaxy. Yet, somehow, they were able to do it. Reluctantly and with great fear, the Galactic Council readied a diplomatic mission to introduce humanity to the galaxy at large. It was only 5 days before the diplomatic mission was scheduled to begin when an unknown contact entered the Council's capital system. It seems to most historians that the humans were simply tired of waiting. Somehow intercepting, deciphering and understanding GCL, Galactic Common Language, they made first contact before we could. Transcript of Audio Thought Log 2. And so I proclaim the galactic ban on grass or fruit rush. The head counselor's speech was cut short by a deafening boom of static, followed by a careful tuning and eventual silence. Hello, can anyone hear me? Asked the voice of Chancellor Jin Tiran, leader of the Human Space Coalition. This is Chancellor Jin Tiran, leader of humanity. Stunned silence enveloped the crowd, followed by countless gasps and whispered remarks. Yes, we can hear you. Gotan hesitated for a moment. This is Katana Malia, High Counselor of the Galactic Council. Let us talk face to face above the planet's surface. Gotan began to shake with fear. Were these the same humans that slaughtered millions of their own people? The same ones countless debates into whether or not military intervention to stop their brutality was necessary? To her dismay, it was revealed to be so. The flickering static of the screen above her slowly faded into a clear and sharp image of a thin bipedal creature, strong and gargantuan, staring down upon the room. Where do you wish us to land? Responded Jill. She wondered silently to herself why she detected a hint of fear towards her, not just the fear of the unknown, but a deep terror coming from the eyes observing her. She was certain, however, that whatever misunderstandings between humanity and the aliens could be put to rest. Land at the station in orbit. Council, you are dismissed until further notice. End log. Council streamed out of the gargantuan main hall and out into the crowded streets of Bliss, the capital of the galaxy. With layer over layer over layer of city encasing the whole planet, at least 2 trillion called this world home. How much danger are they in? With humans in orbit, they surely couldn't have been safe. Still, Catan marched her way to the teleported complex, not knowing if she'd survive the other side. With a single leap of faith, she immersed herself in the teleporter's event horizon. No going back, she thought defeatedly. Maybe I can ward off their aggression and survive their bombardment of abuse and horrors. Certainly this would be even more dangerous than the Takesh first contact. At least they were able to prevent themselves from harming one another. She felt her body deatomize and almost instantly reatomize at the station. There she found 5 humans looking around with their gargantuan jaws agape. Their undivided attention fell upon her, making her more nervous than she had ever been in her entire life. This place is amazing, said Jill. Keep your vacuum suit sealed though, I don't want to infect our new friends with any human disease. In front of her, a blinding flash of light began to shine in a cylindrical object. Jill covered her eyes and looked away. Was this some kind of trap? As soon as she began to have second thoughts, the light faded. In its place stood a 3 feet tall quadruped that appeared to be made entirely out of plant fibers. She soon realized that this was none other than Councillor Catan. She looked down at the creature scurrying closer towards her and extended a hand. Jill hoped that the creature knew the meaning of the gesture. Catan seemed to hesitate for a moment, but then, after careful deliberation, she extended one of her grasps and the two shook hands. Under the surface, however, Catan was scheming on how to best rid the galaxy of these humans. She had been terrified of them before, but seeing them in person, it was simply too much to bear. They were gargantuan, surrounding themselves in crude suits of fibre and glass. They were young and should be dumb. Instead, they have discovered a completely new kind of FTL travel and are bringing their warmongering to the stars. "Execute human protocol," she whispered into her microphone. Suddenly, all the walls began to shift, revealing monstrous robots, 5 feet tall each, marching into the hall. The humans looked confused and stared around them, seeing the robots marching around. Jill decided to approach one. It attempted to grab her hand, but Jill easily pushed it away. The force of her push was able to completely topple the 100-pound behemoth. Jill turned and looked curiously at Catan. "I think your greeting party is malfunctioning." Catan stood in abject horror. Their most powerful defensive robots, capable of manhandling any known species in the galaxy, were simply pushed over by a human. "Abort! Abort!" Catan was frantic, praying to the makers that the humans wouldn't be angry about the attack. She looked at Jill with pleading eyes. "It's alright. I appreciate the gesture, though. These robots will be great for manual labour on asteroid mines. What do you want for them in return?" Jill asked, and looked towards Catan with enthusiastic eyes. The look she got back, however, was confused. Catan struggled for a moment, thinking of how to respond. "You can have them for free." Her voice crackled with fear. As soon as she saw the human's eyes light up with joy, however, relief washed over her. They didn't know this was meant to be an attack. They thought it was a gift for their mining operations. One thing was for sure, however, humans were the most dangerous race in the galaxy. Catan wasn't yet done trying to rid herself of them, but such measures were for another time. "Thank you for your generosity. We also have a gift for you," responded Jill. Soon a 6th human entered the chamber with a large mechanical object being carted in on the dolly. "For peace and prosperity between our peoples." Catan glared scrutiniously at the object. "What is this?" she hissed. "Some kind of human weapon?" "Oh, yes, that is a fusion reactor. We figured that since you are plants, you could use this to grow and develop yourselves," Jill responded enthusiastically. "We noticed in our previous scans of this planet that no fusion power was on its surface. You still use nuclear fission, yes?" "Yes, of course," Catan replied, dumbstruck. "It is 4 times as powerful as your fission reactors. Hopefully such technology can benefit you." "Yes, I will find many uses for this," replied Catan. She was even more terrified than before. Suddenly she came to a grave realization. "How many star systems do you inhabit?" Jill's response was swift and shocking. 550 as of today. The number is steadily increasing with the advent of our FTL drives." Without realizing it, Jill just confirmed Catan's greatest fear. They are spread too far to be contained. Without realizing it, Jill just confirmed Catan's greatest fear. They are spread too far to be contained. Without realizing it, Jill just told Catan that conflict is inevitable. "Interesting, very interesting indeed," muttered Catan. "I must get back to the surface and inform my people. A diplomat will be sent up shortly. Thank you for your generous gifts." Before leaving, Catan scanned the object for later replication. "It is my honour. However, I will also be leaving. Human diplomats will arrive within the hour. I hope we can have cooperation between our great peoples." Jill walked carefully back to her ship and glanced behind her. Catan had gone down to the surface. "Run!" she yelled to her troops, as she had figured out Catan's plans the moment the robots attempted to attack. Alarms began to blare all over the station as the humans scrambled towards their ship. As soon as Catan was on the ground, she screamed to the station operator. "Shut it down, now! The humans can't be allowed to leave." "But, Councillor, the station is important for trade." "It doesn't matter. The humans can't leave with any of the knowledge they have. Blow it up." The operator gulped, but he did what he was told. "Self-destruct activated," he said in a high-pitched voice. "Why do we need to destroy them? Isn't that against our morals?" The operator's protest fell on deaf ears. For years I have studied the humans from a distance. Only their home planet, however. Their military technology has been successfully deciphered and recreated. We must destroy them to prevent their deeds from reaching the populace. It would cause too much devastation. Citizens of Bliss looked up to a burning sky. An explosion had destroyed one of the orbital stations around the planet. Mass panic and confusion erupted across the planet when suddenly all of the screens in the vast Ecumenopolis switched to a live speech from Councillor Catan. My fellow citizens, today a group of aliens known as the humans has destroyed one of our stations. I barely escaped with my own life. We are now in a state of war. Ready yourselves for a final conflict. Ready yourselves to fight for the very survival of our Grand Republic. Punch it, Daniels! Jill screamed. She was soon pushed over by the tremendous force of acceleration. Crashing into a nearby table, she felt one of her ribs crack as she screamed out in pain. The ship lurched again as a massive explosion propelled it back out into space. Throwing Jill across the room once again. Jump back to Earth, we need to warn them. Cores are charging up. Jumping in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Everything seemed to compress and push in on the ship for a moment. Then everything went back to normal pressure. The view screens on the bridge showed only pitch-black swirls around the ship. We gave them the fake fusion reactor, right? Jill huffed, exhausted from the mad sprint to the ship from the station. Yes, we did. Hopefully we will beat their first contact ships to Earth, replied Captain Daniels. Why? I thought that this was going to be peaceful coming into this, Jill said. She still had no idea why a sentient bunch of space plants would want to blow them up. Their first contact fleet wasn't a bunch of science vessels. Detailed scans show a full battle fleet of over 200 ships, Daniels revealed. They wanted to destroy us before we could pose a threat to them. Good God. Hopefully we get home in time to throw out the welcome mat. Jill winced from the pain of her shattered rib. Someone get me some morphine. On it, replied Hank, her head security officer, as he jabbed a small needle into her chest. The pain went away and she began to think clearly again. Make sure weapons are fully charged before we jump back into the system. Don't know if they'll be far behind us.